welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
And I'm Josh.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hello. You have glasses on.
I do. These are my I want to look smarter glasses. And I was going to see if people would notice, but that was literally the first thing you said.
Well, it's like, I don't know. It's weird. I knew you were trying to just see if people notice, but if people aren't listening, they're not. I mean, if people are just listening, they're not going to notice. So I had to call it out. So.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that since I've stared at computer screens quite a lot, I'm trying to rule out things as I get headaches periodically. I'm trying to factor out reasons why. Caffeine and then I got duped into some internet marketing that was like, you need these glasses that have a blue filter that make you not have headaches when you're on your computer. But I wore them for a little while and they made me feel really sick. They don't magnify, I didn't think.
There's probably just a little
Yeah,
bit.
It's a tiny smidge, but made me feel gross. I don't get motion sick at all. And this is the first instance of that weird parallaxy sickness feeling that I've ever gotten.
Well, when I first got these glasses, and I had glasses when I was younger, and then I kind of stopped wearing them. So I feel like I've been through this before, but I didn't remember it. When I got these glasses, when I first put them on, the shape of everything was different. My field of view was a little different, and for the first day and a half or something, it was really strange. It felt like my hands were really super far away and stuff like that. And now, if I take them on and off, it doesn't look any different at all. And maybe your brain
maybe you're cured.
I can see.
Your myopia
maybe your
going.
brain learns how to switch between things, and handle it better or something. But it's really weird. It used to look so different, and now I see no difference at all. As far as I see a difference as far as clarity, but that depth of things or whatever it is that caused that, it's really strange. Have you ever heard of an ocular migraine?
The migraine that's in your eyeballs?
Yeah.
That's usually where my migraines originate, right behind my eyes.
So I've never heard of this before. And a few months ago, my daughter just one day was and she's, 10, 11. She's 11 now. She was like, I can't see out of one of my eyes. All of a sudden, she was like, it's kind of blurry, and now it's starting to go dark, and I can't see. And we got really upset. We were like, we should call somebody about that. She's like, yeah, my head's starting to hurt, and it's just blurry, and it's kind of going in and out, but it's only one eye, and if I close my eyes, it feels a little bit better. And so we were like, well, go lay down. We're going to call the doctor, see what's up. Long story short, there's something called an ocular migraine, and it will come on as a headache, but it can cause one or both eyes to either go blurry, out of focus, or you lose vision, or everything gets darker for a little while you have the headache, and then it just goes away. And it's like migraine, like a regular migraine, where there's not necessarily a trigger. Sometimes there is, but there's nothing that you could just definitely tie it to. And she's had to deal with it a couple of times, and it's lasted for 30, 40 minutes. We put sometimes she'll get in a cool bath. Yep. And then that seems to kind of get rid of it, and then she's fine. It's really weird, though, and it really scared me the first time it happened, because she'd never had anything like that her entire life, and all of a sudden it was just a thing.
I see stars sometimes.
Like Brad Pitt.
Just a bunch of Brad Pitt heads.
They're everywhere.
This is the dreamiest migraine. But
sorry. Proceed.
It's the 7 version of Brad Pitt,
Oh,
not the Snatch
short
version.
hair one. Got it.
But yeah, it would. I used to get them all the time when I was a kid, and it's less so now, but it's so random when it comes on. It'll start behind my eyes, and it'll migrate to the back of my head.
Migrate.
Yeah. And I'll start seeing it's these shooting stars from your peripheral going toward the center of your vision.
Huh.
Pew, 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 pew. Yeah, the opposite of going light speed.
But
you're going light
so
speed in reverse. Yeah.
They're not just kind of one.
No. It's shooting toward the center.
That's
you threw the Millennium Falcon in reverse and just punched it.
Punch it backwards.
And I start to feel really nauseous, like I'm going to throw up. I get really pale. I remember the couple times that it happened when I worked at the pool. It's weird because it's sometimes you just have a headache. You're like, oh man, I got a headache for whatever you haven't eaten or you didn't drink a cup of coffee. And it kind of feels like that. And the moment that I know that that's coming, like I have to take a bunch of, like usually some Excedrin works, it has a little bit of caffeine in it because sometimes it's caffeine triggered.
Oh, right.
Or there's stuff called Imitrex that I used to take that used to make me super dizzy and just like loopy. But what helped me was taking the shower, like a cold bath, or just laying on the bathroom floor, like the linoleum or the tile, the cold tile.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that too.
Just like shut off all the light, no sound, and just lay on the floor. Like I felt like I was dying. The one time in particular, my wife had some friends over, and I like left work early, and I drove myself home, which was a terrible idea. She's like, "How do you look terrible?" She's like, "You have a migraine?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go lay down." And I remember I was taking a shower, and I'm like, "This is how you die. Like right now is how you die. This is terrible." Like I got admitted one time when I was in Louisiana for 3 days in the hospital because of one, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. Like I had a fever, I had this migraine that just would not go away, and they kept coming in, and the Army hospital just would give me Motrin, and that was like it. Every so often they'd come in and give me some Motrin, and I remember I'd wake up and she would turn the lights on, and she would give me the medicine, and one time I threw it up, and she's like, "Okay, well, I mean, technically you took it, so you can't have it for another 4 hours." And I was trying to like reach into the trash can, and I'm like, "That's unacceptable." And the lady had like, "Oh no, don't do that. That's disgusting." And then she like gave me some more out of pity. But that was miserable.
Yeah, I'm really glad that's nothing. I've never had to deal with anything like that, the migraine stuff, because it sounds just terrible.
It's just so random. Like it's not a series of things that you're doing.
Right. Can't just cut something out. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a poopy, so I feel for her.
That is a poopy. Yeah, well, she's only had to deal with it a couple of times, luckily. So, but it is a thing that, now we have to kind of keep an eye out for. And if we know it's coming, or if she starts to feel it, then we're like, okay, go lay down, close your eyes.
Yep. Go lay down on the bathroom floor.
Just like let it, run its course. Because that seems to be what it is, at least with hers. I don't know if they're all like that, but hers just has to run its course.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to both finish these sets today.
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
I'm going. I got my game fight. There are tons of little tiny pieces and very few larger pieces.
Ooh, you get to make a chain.
Yeah, I get to make a chain.
That's cool.
I've been putting the pieces of the chain together, but I'm waiting to be punished by the instructions for trying to, like, there's nothing else this could be but a chain.
You never know.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm in bag 14, and I have bag 15, but look at this. It's like nothing.
Oh, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
Making like a ladder?
I don't know what that is. So, anyway, I should be able to finish this one up today. A little Lego news for anybody. Man, there's a lot happening above us.
I wonder how much people can hear. Because we get like, man, there's tons of kids. But then I listen to the show sometimes, and it's like, I couldn't hear any of that stuff.
Well, a lot of people usually go like, we wouldn't even know it was there if you didn't point it out. But you can hear that, right?
It's the headphone people.
Yeah. Anyway. Did you see that Lego was going to start testing paper bags?
I didn't see what they were doing. I heard that they were phasing out single-use plastic bags, but I assumed that it was going to just be in some type of like cardboard box.
It's like a paper sealed bag of some sort. And I saw some pictures of them. I think it's a really good move for them. I mean, obviously this is all still plastic, but they're making moves on that, turning that into a more sustainable plant-based thing. And it's, vacuuming. Great.
Your kids are so clean.
Yeah.
It's not like we record on a habitual time or date.
No?
They're just so in tune.
We record kind of at the end of the school day, and that's when they have to start doing their chores. We're terrible parents. We're like, you do school all day long, and as soon as you're done, you do your chores. And you can't have fun until all that's... Well, it's like we don't give them a break. We're not terrible parents. Anyway, there's vacuuming. Sorry. But yeah, I think the paper bag is like a good step towards... It is so loud. It's a good step towards, doing what they can, given what they make, to improve it a little bit. So I wonder if that will eventually maybe morph into how they do instructions. Because even like this particular set, like, look at this book. It's like...
Yeah.
It's 3/4 of an inch thick, I mean, this is like a whole...
It's a volume.
It's a year's worth of magazines. And that could be, and these are all digital already. You can get the digital instructions for any set that you get. So I wonder if they'll eventually move to that, or maybe instead of having individual numbered bags, they figure out a better way to organize them in a single container or something. You know, I don't know. But
That's what I was wondering, that if they were going to move to boxes, before you said something about paper bags, like how they were going to do that. I know some of the sets, they just don't have bag numbers.
yeah,
But it makes sense for some of them to have bag numbers.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
I don't know.
I think it's cool that they're doing that.
Apple had the, I put that on wrong, I think. No, I didn't. Apple had their iPad and the Apple Watch announcement yesterday, and they were talking about they're trying to be carbon net zero by 2030 as a company.
Yeah. And I heard Google just hit that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
Now, does that count? That can't count the production facilities themselves, because they send stuff off to China. They can't demand that the Chinese factory that puts all the iPhone 12s and stuff together be net zero.
I mean, I wouldn't think so.
It's
but
China.
But at the same time, they've had a lot of scrutiny about the environmental impact of their battery production and recycling and stuff like that. And that all is about the physical thing, not just the U.S. based office.
Yeah, they did talk a lot about using recycled materials from, and I was wondering during that event, like where you're getting the recycled tungsten and things that it mentioned. So it could be, I don't know if it's from batteries or, I don't know, but they're very proud of their ability to reuse items. And it made me think like what items are reusing. And they're not, I saw yesterday that all new, I don't know if it's all new, but new Apple products that they ship out are not going to contain power adapters now or chargers.
Yeah. Which is really smart, to be
Which
honest.
may go to show that maybe the 12 or the newest iPhone won't have USB-C charging.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because then that whole, like, saying that will be kind of negated because they're going to have to replace the lightning cable.
Yeah, possibly. And they may just be moving closer to full wireless charging, or the assumption of full wireless.
They got rid of the charging pad.
They did, but at
killed
the
it.
same time, that one of the things that they announced yesterday was a charging pad for the watch, where you could lay the watch rather than the puck that magnetically sticks to the back. It's a larger pad that you could set it on flat or up on its side, and it will still charge.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, I
so
guess
that you can use it as a nightstand, kind of like a alarm clock.
And that's always been, like, the big detractor for me because I 3D printed a little thing that has the puck for my watch oriented vertically, and then it has an induction charging pad behind, like a 3D printed thing for my phone. So I can set my phone on some pegs and watch it like a TV, like while it's being charged with my watch next to it, all in the same kind of unit.
Yeah.
So that would be cool.
Yeah.
That way you just have one big pad.
So, wow, there's a lot going on up there. Another thing, the thing that I was the most interested in, if you're not into Apple stuff, I apologize, but this is actually a little bit bigger of a conversation here. The thing that I was really looking forward to in this particular, product launch or whatever, is that I had heard for a while they were thinking about coming up with a way to have an Apple Watch, cellular-based Apple Watch, that was independent from a phone.
Yeah, so that you could like have one for a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
They did announce it.
Oh, did they?
They did. I didn't watch the video, so I just kind of went back after the fact and looked at what was released, and that was the thing I was looking for, so I found it.
We tuned in the middle of the watch.
Oh. So basically they have this, I don't remember what they call it. It's family something.
Apple One?
No. It's like it has the word family in it.
Yeah.
Or
Apple Family
it
Plus?
doesn't matter. It's a thing where you can have a single phone can set up multiple watches. They have to be cellular, and they have to be like, I don't know, Series 3 or higher or something like that. But the controlling iPhone can set all parental limitations on the watch. So you can set up like who can call, who can text to it, who they can respond to. You obviously have all the GPS control and stuff like that. You can set a school time feature so that it is like a do not disturb during school. And basically it's a really controlled watch, but that you can monitor, you can contact, which is great for us because the thing that I've been kind of trying to figure out for the past year or so. My older kids are getting older. They ride bikes in the neighborhood a lot, and I don't want to give them a phone. I have no interest in giving them a phone, even though they ask all the time. But I do want a way to get in touch with them, to see where they are in case something goes wrong, for them to call us if somebody has a bike wreck. 'Cause they wreck all the time. They're like constantly falling off or running into stuff or whatever.
And the Apple Watch has the fall detection. They'll automatically call 911.
Well,
so if they do get
that might not be good.
well,
I don't know if we need a 911 every time.
I don't know what
fall.
the impact limit.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is interesting for us because my wife and I both have Apple Watches. We both really like them. And it's an opportunity for us to upgrade ours, and the ones we have are still new enough that and in good enough shape that they can be passed down to the two older kids. And that gives us a way to get in touch with them without the potential dangers that could go with a phone, no matter how locked down that phone is.
Yep.
The watch just doesn't have the same capability. So I don't have to worry about them trying to buy games or, like whatever they're watching YouTube, any of that type of stuff. Like, it's just a non-issue. And it's interesting because it's a thing where all of the arguments that they give us for having a phone are answered by the watch without the negative stuff, the reasons that we don't want to give them a phone.
Yeah.
Because they're always like, yeah, but then we can get in touch with you and we can let you know where we are and we can, always check in. And I'm like, yep, you can with the watch.
And it's a new cool piece of technology. It's not like you're giving them like a flip phone,
right?
Where you as a parent like, this does everything you think.
Yeah, right.
Like it's still functional for other reasons besides just being in contact with people. Yeah. Like, granted, they may see their friends on their phones and still have a little bit of jealousy.
Yeah.
But as a kid, trying to put myself in their shoes, like, that's a pretty hefty consolation.
Oh yeah. I mean, to have they have no concept of what Dick Tracy is, but to have like that on your wrist, like as a child, that's pretty amazing.
I still think it's cool that when my wife calls, like we were doing a project in my house and we were moving stuff downstairs and I had my hands full.
Oh yeah.
And she called me, and it's funny now, people that are Apple Watch people when they just start like pecking at their wrist with their nose. To like make notifications go away. Well, yeah, I like pecked at my wrist and she's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm like moving a huge piece of furniture downstairs. She's like, oh, I can let you go. I'm like, there's literal no impact on me right now talking to you. Yep. Other than me having to peck awkwardly at my wrist like a crazy person.
So, I mean, the downside to that whole thing is that even if you're using a used watch, it's still a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
It's still a thing that a kid could smash, could crack, could forget to charge, and then it's pointless. And, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, oh, this is just like perfect solution for whatever. Given the fact that we're already Apple Watch users and I skip a couple of generations at a time, I think mine's a 4 and they just came out with the 6. So, it's not like I'm always trading up to the newest ones. Yours is a 4 too, because I think
we bought them at the same time. Because I was fine with my 3, but I broke it.
I had a 2. I skipped the 3 and I got the 4. Now I've skipped the 5.
Is there a 5?
Yeah, last year. It was like basically the same. They're all basically the same. They just add little features here and there, but they look pretty much the same. Anyway, I think it's going to be a good solution for us as a way to step into having 2 middle schoolers who are beginning to kind of step out of, underneath the wing and get out there. So I'm pretty excited that that's an option for us. So,
well, I'm glad you brought this up because I kind of wanted to talk about kind of this topic. Because my oldest son, we homeschool, so the like doing your work at home on the computer is not foreign to us at all. I know a lot of people are being forced to like use their Chromebooks or do Google Meets and things like that. Like we've been doing that for a while before it was cool. But
right,
the
homeschoolers doing everything before it's cool.
Yeah, dude, you guys are just now doing work at home, dorks. We're OG, but like I don't want to buy another laptop just because my 10-year-old needs to write a paper.
Yeah.
So we have a 2009 iMac. Like this still works, but it's not upgradable. Like we can't get the newest version of OS. We can't get Pages. We had an Office subscription. I was like, why am I paying like $80 a year to be able to use like Excel when we can just use numbers? Like the jump from one to the other was not as drastic as I imagined. And now that the computer that is like the house computer, the one that my son uses to do school, like can't even take the newest version. Like I'm not going to pay for that. So I stopped. Yeah. And we can just use Google Docs.
Yep.
And so it's web-based. So I was able to set him up on Google Docs. I'm like, well, if I do that, then he needs to have a login on this computer that is kind of dedicated to this computer. And I think like most people nowadays, I have several email addresses. I've got the one I have here for work. I've got the silly one I've had since high school. There's my professional one that if I was going to a job interview that's not like Bootyshaker42 or whatever. So my boring professional email that only has like 3 emails in it as a whole, I just set that one up. And he wanted to make it his own. So he went in and like changed the birthday and locked out the account because it wasn't on the family account. And something happened. I don't remember what it was, but I got frustrated at it. And so the other day I sat down. Oh, I know. My son is 10, and he asked me the other day what a condom was. I'm like, whoa, okay, hi, what? Where? And I've told him before, and it's always my stance, is I don't ever want to lie to him. And I told him that. I'm like, but... I'm like, I will answer this question. Do you really want to know? And I answered it like that. And he kind of gave me that weird look. He was like, no, I don't think I want to know anymore. I'm like, it's nothing bad, but I don't think it's the right time for me to not lie to you. Let me not lie to you later when this is a little more applicable. So I was trying to figure out, like, how did you get to that? And he was like, he was Google image searching for something he was putting into a paper, which again, I still don't know how those lines connected where he was seeing something about condoms. And he wanted to read audiobooks, so I got a bunch of Audible books. One was Off to Be the Wizard, which is a book that you and I have talked about, which is a fantastic, fun, wizardy, like computer hacking kind of set of stories.
Yeah, super good. I highly recommend them.
Yeah, it's a series of 3, and he just finished the second one. But he was looking up like what those characters looked like in real life, what like Martin looked like, and so he's Google imaging this stuff, and then this book came up about like some spell book, and he was asking me if he could buy it, and I'm like, well, you got to show it to me. So he shows it to me, and it's like dark magic spells for like Wiccans. I'm like, this is not like a fiction, like fun, we're gonna cast spells like
Harry
book.
Potter.
Yeah, this is like you're gonna go out into the woods and like try to actually do spells and like talk to dark spirits and things. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so he got upset with me because he didn't understand the difference between like fun fictional wizardry and then people actually like standing in circles with like stars and flames or something on the ground. Again, I don't want to cast dispersion people. I don't know much about it, but I'm like, this is not what you think it is. So then I come back to like, how did you even get that far? And I'm like, not that I want to shut down the world. We were very open about that as homeschool parents. But I'm like, you do need some kind of, like some parental controls on there just so you don't accidentally see things that you don't want to see. And so the other day I sat down on the computer that he normally uses. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, why are you on the computer? What are you doing? You're breaking everything. I'm like,
I know how I would respond to that.
Yeah. He's like, are you putting parental controls? I'm like, yeah. And then he got upset, and then I had to turn to him. I'm like, do you want me to tell you what a condom is now?
Ooh.
He goes, no. I'm like, did you look for that? He goes, no, it just like popped up accidentally. I'm like, a parental control prevents stuff like that popping up accidentally.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, okay. I'm like, there are things in the world you're not ready to see yet. Not that you shouldn't ever be exposed to them, but you're 10.
Yeah.
So do you want me to let the internet just randomly show you stuff that makes you uncomfortable, or do you want me to help you with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So rather than setting parental controls on my own weird job-related email address, I created his own Google account that was under the family account. And so while I was doing that, I'm like, I get to pick my son's email address.
Yeah.
Like, this is the email address that, like, he's going to apply to college. He could apply to his first job. I'm like, this is going to be his outward-facing identity.
So you did Bootyshaker42.
I sure did.
Right?
Deacon smells like rotten egg farts. 4927265472927A capital P.
Excellent video.
Yeah.
In case you just a little side tangent, go look for Domain Dollar.
Yeah.
What is it?
Domain Dollar Store.
Domain Dollar Store. It's an excellent old video. Anyway, proceed.
So like with that, I had to pause for a second because I was like, this is his actual stuff, and it's very clear that like he could see stuff in there. Your child, even when setting this stuff up with the controls, like can still see stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I get that. That's a risk that because we live in an internet age, he's going to be on the internet. Like I can't stop all things, but like I'm doing something. I'm setting him up to something that is, I automatically in my mind like made him older.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
It's a jump forward for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't one like the school was like, oh, here's your Chromebook, your, Jim Bob price at elementary school because you're a baby.com. And I'm like, this is like, yeah, when you apply to college, this is the email address you're probably going to use. And I sat down yesterday morning and I wrote him an email, like a really long email about like, welcome to the actual internet. Not in a way where like, oh, you need to look up a Google image of conquistadors for this paper that you're doing. I'm like, you now have the keys. Again, parental controls within reason.
Some
like,
keys.
You have the keys to all of human knowledge. Good and bad. To fact, to opinion, to the messy, vague in between. And in that message, like I tried to explain all that and not in scary ways, but I'm like, and in that vague, scary in between, like I am here to help you. And the things that, because the internet is constantly changing, there are things that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so we can figure those things out together. Like, but for the most part, like this is, I work on the internet. Like, please take my word for a lot of the things that I'm trying to tell you. Don't assume I'm out to get you. Don't fight me.
Yeah.
I have your best interests at heart. I promise I do. But let me be, I don't know, like my dad was a fireman. And so if I needed information on fire hoses, I'm not going to tell him he's an idiot. Like, it's what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Like, cut him some slack. But it was very strange. Like, in that one simple thing, like, I don't want you to use my old email address anymore to find pictures, of the moon landing to put in your book report. Now I just gave you a worldwide identity that is going to carry with you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, but at the same time, I mean, it does sound like a big step forward, but we also did that when they were born. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
I think in the time that they are with us under our care, it's a bunch of those. It's a bunch of those things of like, you're ill-prepared, we have a little bit more experience, so here's the next thing. Here's your next level up and what we can give you to help you move ahead until you get to the next thing. As those barriers will begin to come off, over time. So that feels weird.
Yeah.
But I had something interesting a couple days ago that's like the next step past that. So when our kids had to come home from school in March, I saw it coming. So a few weeks before everything kind of happened, I ordered Chromebooks for the kids. Found some nice refurbished ones that are really good. So when that did happen, we had 4 Chromebooks here, and I had to set them all up. So I did the same thing. I set them all up a Google account with their name, and Google has this, and anybody that doesn't know, they have this program called Family Link, and it lets you set up child accounts.
Yep, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So through that, you have an app, and then you can manage and stuff all of the kids' accounts and what they have access to and all that type of stuff. Well, that works until they're 13.
Yep.
And when they're 13,
they can choose.
They can choose to take over their account that you can still manage, but
they have to
it
agree.
transfers to their name.
Yep. I
got an email yesterday that my oldest, in a month from, I'm not going to say when, soon, he gets to take over his own account.
That's Google, like, pushing them out of that little nest.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's an outside entity.
Like, I mean, it's weird just that I could still, I could mess with it. I could change his birthday or I could do something. I don't know. But it's weird to say, like, here's a thing that you created for them that you are, like, really in control of. And now they get the chance to take some of that control away from you.
Someone else thinks that you shouldn't have that control anymore.
Yeah.
And I could see where a lot of people would be very against that, having a big corporation tell them that they can't parent in the way that they choose.
Right.
But that's kind of what you sign up for when you do stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, like if that's really important to you, if you really don't, want the kid to have that option, you could go in as them because you have full access to their account.
Yeah, I have his password. He
and
doesn't know.
set that. You can you could choose that for them. And like I said, you can still manage their account, but the ownership of that account goes to them, so that as they grow older, they can take it with them, which is a good thing. I mean, it's a good step for them. But it was weird to have that realization, like, oh, this is another step forward, a little bit of control that I'm really gonna have to eventually get rid of anyway. But this is like you said, it's an outward thing, kind of reaching in and saying like, oh yeah, don't forget, you're losing your children.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. So.
Well, he was really excited that I migrated over his Google Docs from my old account to his now new account. And as I was doing that, he was watching me do it. And he was like, so I can share like a document with other people? And I have to remember that like he has no concept of like working with other people. He's always done stuff by himself, and then he just like shows it to us, and then we proofread it, and he does it very independently. I'm like, yeah, man, like you can share all these documents with all kinds of people. I was like, you share it with me if you want. And he got so excited that we could write a story together, which made me feel really good in that moment. That like I was mentally making him older or projecting down the way of like, this is an adult step that I'm making for you. And he very quickly showed me that like, no, he's still a kid and wants to write silly stories about magic, and I can help him do it.
Oh, right.
I'm like, thanks for that.
Yeah, that is cool.
He wasn't like asking me for, he could share tax returns or something that.
I can send you my receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thing, because I mean, our kids have Google accounts through their school. Like, everybody in the school system has an account that's, it's owned by the school.
Is it linked to the school?
Yeah.
Like a .edu whatever type account? Okay.
Yeah. It's managed by the school and everything, and they can't take it with them, after that. But one thing that's interesting about that I didn't even realize because they were set up without me is that within the context of the school, they have an email address that is a known equation. It's their first name dot last name at this dot this dot this dot this. So if they have a friend that they know their name, all they have to do is to figure out their email address, then they can just put in their name. And so once you have that and you have a Google account, then you can share docs like you're talking about. So anyway, I found out at one point that my oldest son was like outside of classwork was working on a slideshow with a friend of his when they were at not the middle school, when they were at an elementary school. They went to different middle schools, but they still know each other's school email addresses. So they now have this, it's like a dinosaur fact slideshow or something. But it's cool that they actually get to work on this thing together, even though they don't see each other at school anymore. They don't really have a way to get in touch with each other. And so while they're opening, they pull up this Google, whatever the slideshow, I don't know what the name of the app is, but once they pull that up, you can edit, and it shows up on the other person's thing. So they can like type back and forth in the document.
In real time.
So they're like chatting through the thing. I'm like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I would have done with that if I was a kid and I had a way to just like, and it's kind of a hack around. Like, they weren't given permission to do that. They just figured out that if we work on this thing together, I can see what you type and you can see what I type, so we can actually talk back and forth. And I didn't want to get on this case about it because it's actually a really cool thing to figure out. So in lieu of giving them a way to communicate with people through a phone or whatever, I think that's a pretty safe way for him to talk to somebody specifically. He knows who he's talking to because he knows them in real life, that kind of thing.
We used to pass TI-83s back and forth. And
very limited
and pre-calc
vocabulary there, though.
No, you had a full keyboard.
Oh.
Yeah, TI-83, you could program that thing. We'd have games. I think you could play...
I'm older than you are. Calculators were...
It's your graphing calculator.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot on a graphing calculator. I used to write to my now wife, like love letters on calculators that we used to pass back and forth. Because I'm that kind of dork.
Nerd.
But it totally worked, though.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well,
in that same thing, I was telling him, like, he knows my wife's email address, her Yahoo email address, because he uses it to log into one of his school things.
Oh, yeah.
And I was telling him about, like, it's whatever your email address .gmail. And he's like, oh, like Mom has the Yahoo one. I'm like, yeah. He's like, so I just changed, it's the beginning, and then I just put Gmail at the end. I'm like, no. I'm like, you can't do that. So we had talked about web addresses and how you type in a web address. And then I let him know that I like to make stuff.com existed. And he thought that we're now the coolest people in the world because we have our own website.
You have a website?
It's exactly the reaction. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, we do. He's like, what? I didn't know that. I gotta,
what do you think I do for a living?
Now we've reached the pinnacle of coolness because we have a website. But I had to explain to him, I'm like, each one of these search engines, and I explained what a search engine was, is like a neighborhood. I'm like, I happen to have a house in a couple different neighborhoods. It's like your mom has a house in that one neighborhood. You have a house in Google's neighborhood.
I don't know if that's a great analogy. Your mom and I are still together,
Yeah.
just to be clear.
But I have houses on tons of places. So it's fun trying to explain the internet to a 10-year-old who fully understands because he operates and
Yeah.
But in his limited capacity of using the internet, knows of like Scratch or knows how to search for pictures just by like typing into the web address. So it automatically defaults. I have it defaulting to search by Google. So he thinks just like typing something into the address bar will take him to like the internet. And I think that all of the executives at Google have a big smile on their face because I think that's what they're trying to go for. They want searching the internet to be ubiquitous with just using Google.
Yeah.
And in our house, I discovered that is exactly the case because I haven't taught him otherwise.
Yeah, I think there's a significant amount of people who just think that Google is the internet.
Yeah, I'm like, have you never heard of Bing? Good, because it sucks.
Yeah. Seriously. Somebody sent over a link to, there's a Netflix documentary called
It's a social media one?
Social Dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I haven't either. They were asking us to watch it and talk about it on here, so maybe sometime this week we can each try to watch it and have a conversation about it. Because it sounds like it's pretty good and covers a lot of the... I don't know if it's around kids or just the use of social stuff. But I think that might be interesting, especially as our kids are getting older and we're having to figure out how to do this. Anything else on this? I don't want to cut it off, but I was wanting to get to something.
No, it was just like it was a very strange realization that I had to explain. Like my son is trying to be older in very innocent ways. And just like most kids, he tried to resist. And I gave him more freedom. But he was like, well, you put parental controls on the Switch. And I'm like, well, that's like, it's a time limit. So like it just stops at a certain time. I'm like, and I didn't know how to do that. You taught me how to do that. Because in his, like you talked about your daughter and Destin's son giving a presentation on the very logical reasons why they should be allowed to do something. My son did that with the Switch. And he told me all about the parental controls app that he read about in like the Nintendo News.
I remember you saying that.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Thanks.
And then he got upset with me trying to put parental controls. And it was funny watching his face when I shut him up like immediately. Because he got mad at me. I'm like, you showed me how to do that. Yeah.
Oh. He's like, I'm never going to tell you anything ever again.
I'm like, ha.
That's funny.
Gotcha.
Well, ooh, look at that. I made the back of a pirate ship.
That's a handsome.
I wish I had made the pirate ship rather than a wrecked pirate ship. It's weird to have three individual pieces. I wanted the pirate ship.
It's cute, but I think the pirate ship would be much more impressive. Do you have to add stuff to it? Because it looks like that piece is buried in the sand. I don't know.
But you can't just like turn this into the ship. You have to take it apart.
Oh.
And I don't want to do that. So anyway, the Mandalorian trailer came out.
Mandalorian trailer did come out. It looked pretty cool.
It did look pretty cool. It was very... I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting anything. I hadn't really thought that far into it. But it was different than I was expecting.
Conundrum.
I don't know what I expected. Honestly, I don't know how it's different or anything. But like it just had I like it. It's not a negative thing. It just... had a different look and a different vibe than I was kind of assuming it would have somehow. I don't know how I could assume that if I didn't have anything in mind, but...
Well, it's funny how we talked about it, and then the whole trailer was like, you have to get the child back to where he came from. And the whole trailer was just like, it seemed to be the journey of him getting him back to where he came from.
Yeah.
And we, like, we purported that it could have been all these other things. And I was like, oh yeah, they said at the very end that you have to get the kid back where you came from. So that's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah, they already set that up. Yeah, that was old dialogue from last season.
Whoop. Hold on.
But if you look at those shots, the majority of them, it's very clear that the majority of them are from the same planet. So I think it's a thing like the first trailer of the first season where almost every shot in that trailer is from the first episode. It needs a kickstand.
I think this is supposed to be. What's happening here?
I don't know. Because there's a shot of them on a boat. There's a shot of them on a dock. The sky is the same color as it is in many of the other shots. It's not all from the same place, but a lot of it is. So I'm pretty sure that we're not actually getting much of the season in that trailer. Just the cool stuff from the first episode. That's what I think. Which is good, because I like the surprise of... I loved the fact that we watched the first episode of season 1, and I was like, that was pretty much all the trailer stuff. So now I have no idea what's coming.
Everything is new.
Yeah, that's great. But I am really excited about it. I haven't shown the kids the trailer yet, just because...
I haven't shown my kids either.
They're going to be stoked, because they love it.
I'm going to have to count these links in a chain now.
We need to start rewatching season 1, because I want to get caught up right before the other one comes out. That's what we like to do here. And also, I saw today that the Oculus Quest 2 was just released.
Yep.
That's all I saw, other than the price. But do you know anything about it? Do you know what's different? Of course you do. What's different?
It's white.
Oh.
It's going to be dirty.
Count me in.
Yeah, it's going to get dirty. But the resolution, the performance, the storage capacity... Everything is like an order of magnitude better. Not just like little improvements, which Anthony and I talked about this during the Apple event yesterday. How like this card and this new Apple chip increases performance by 40%. And I'm like, but my phone is super fast. I mean, if I go on a website or open an app, like it just kind of works. Like that speed difference seems imperceptible. To where the Oculus not only is like the performance faster, but the resolution... this is the third VR headset that I've tried. The first one I've actually owned. And you can tell when you use it that like it's a little grainy. It's got a little hint of like the chicken wiring. It's still really cool.
Chicken wiring?
Yeah, where you look... It has these like hexagonal or octagonal...
Oh, like the seams in between the kind
yeah.
of... I see what you mean. Okay. Whoa, don't...
But you look past it because it's cool and it's fun and you're immersed in the game. But like when you're trying to like focus on things and find detail, and some games force you to look at things and find detail, you can't really see it. When you're playing shooting games, there's like a bad guy way over there, and you have iron sights on a gun, and you're like, well, the precision of iron sights is kind of lost. You're about to drop sales. There you go.
Ooh, thank you.
The Oculus 2 per eye has 2K resolution with I forgot how many more pixels per eye to give you a combined 4K visual experience, which is crazy. Yeah. I got an email from Oculus through Facebook the other day because the Oculus has the Oculus Store. They have games that are
put this on backwards. $15
to $25 whatever dollars a piece, and they're vetted. And there's also a thing called SideQuest. Like where you can sideload games.
Oh, yeah.
So those are more developer beta versions. There's things that people can crowdsource. Yeah, I was wondering why you had a door in the back of your pirate ship there. That makes a lot more sense. I was just thinking that maybe that's why it's in pieces, because it has a giant hole in the back. Now it's a door. But to sideload, you have to create a developer account, and you have to enable developer mode on your Oculus. And so it's super easy to do that. And it's just you have to create an account, which they don't have to verify. You don't have to do anything. And then you can download SideQuest and get games, the cool, fun games that you can't find on the Oculus Store. Well, now you have to verify like your developer-ness with Facebook. So you either have to put in your phone number or put in like a payment method. So it's a small, but in some people's minds, because it's Facebook, like a huge hurdle to continue to do that. There's a couple other things that you have to verify or you have to do to maintain that developer mode, because they're trying to shift things entirely to the Oculus Store. So I think that they are letting down or offering more games than what they have, and kind of letting down some of their vetting process to try to push out SideQuest. Which SideQuest is really, it's fun. You can try out games a lot easier because a lot of them are free. You can get beta versions of stuff before they come release, and you can be part of the process.
Yeah.
And so it feels a lot more crowdsourced than the Oculus Store, because they're very finished, very polished games. And there's the library is a little limited. Yeah. So with the new headset, with all its like computing power, with the processing speed, with the visual acuity getting better, all those things are awesome. They're also updating the back end to where it's ambiguous now whether the Oculus Store is going to be better because they're trying to absorb that market share from SideQuest, or they're just trying to block it out and forcing you to go in their vertical development, which could be a pain. So
yeah,
the VR experience through Oculus as a novice with the Oculus 2 could be like, whoa, this just looks cooler. But again, I could put the Oculus on somebody right now, they would be amazed. And then just the difference would be noticeable to a previous user, not to a novice.
Right.
So I imagine that the Oculus itself, I've seen some places where it's being taken like out of stock. So I don't know if they're going to become discounted pieces or if they're just taking them and taking certain components and putting them into the Oculus 2.
Yeah, they could be recycling stuff out of them. As far as the to jump back to the beginning of what you're talking about, the power of hardware like that, especially when you look at things like iPhones or Google phones or whatever, you talk about the processors or the image processing being so much higher, and you're like, well, what's the point? Because it's already as fast as like it could be physically. If you're touching something, it's reacting immediately. There's no noticeable lag. A lot of what they're doing there is just creating headroom for future development. So they're just giving more capacity for processing so that the next couple of generations of games or apps or whatever have more to work with as they try to push VR, AR, on device image processing and all that type of stuff. It just gives them more space to do that without affecting the human interaction.
Yeah.
Because if there's not that, then they have to pull one resource to be able to use it over here. And so, if they're trying to process an image, that makes the touch interface less prioritized and slower, or maybe the spatial tracking in VR becomes a little bit laggy because they're also trying to do this. And so those things aren't necessarily, you're not going to notice the speed improvements using the same app probably on two different pieces of hardware, but you would know that notice that in the future on a newer app, working on that hardware versus working on older hardware.
Well, in the Apple event yesterday, they had some side-by-sides of current games to what the new processors will allow. And this is stuff like dynamic lighting, adaptive shadowing, things in games to add realism to it, which I think is good, especially in VR, and especially for the Quest, because the Quest is pretty much a mobile platform, right? So you can link it. You can do like stream VR if you have to have a certain type of computer where you can stream it to your headset where it's just like a proxy monitor. But most of the games that are in the Oculus Store are kind of mobile-based games because it takes a lot of storage power to be able to play those games. So like the Vader Immortal is a super cool game. It looks amazing, but it's 3 separate air quotes games, like chapters of the same game, but the one game itself would have way too much storage space and processing power for that thing. So by increasing all of that, they're able to increase the fidelity, they're increase like maybe the length of the game or what the game is able to offer, which is super cool because my experience with VR, because I have the Quest, they are shorter form games that are really fun, but they're kind of limited. So like Half-Life Alyx, I've seen walkthroughs of that, and there are ways that you can, through SideQuest and like a PC, like relaying proxy into the headset, you can play that game. But without that, if you couldn't download it from the store because the game is way too complex to be able to have on a completely mobile platform.
Right.
And having done the tethered and the completely mobile, like the Quest itself is amazing because you don't have cables and like the freeness. Mm-hmm. If you had a space that was large enough, like you could just aimlessly wander without being tethered to a computer or to like a battery pack or a power source. Like it is super amazing.
Yeah.
So any improvements that they have to make it more ubiquitous so that more people want to get into it, which I think is their overall goal, then cool. Do it. Yeah. It's awesome.
I was kind of, back and forth on VR. I still am. I mean, whether it's something I would actually use on a regular basis or not. Because even gaming systems, I play. I did finally finish Fallen Order, by the way, 2 weeks ago. I finished the game. Everybody, But, I don't play video games enough to really even justify the system, much less an add-on or a dedicated VR system. I am a sucker for new technology, though.
Yeah.
I love tech stuff.
Did you buy it? It's not out yet.
What?
The Quest 2.
No.
Oh, okay, because that's a very Bob Claggett thing for you to do.
No. No, I'm waiting for the PS5. I have not bought... I'm invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. Mm-hmm. I like the PS4. I've had a PS2 on, and so I was waiting for like the PS5 to come out, and with the assumption that there's going to be an upgraded VR experience with that. And they're saying that the existing PSVR stuff will work with the PS5, but they say it will work with it, which means we haven't finalized our new VR whatever. And since I'm not in a hurry for it anyway, my plan is to get a PS5, and then whenever the newer version of VR comes out for that, I'll probably look at that pretty seriously and see if it's a worthwhile investment for it. It's just hard for me to like assume that I'll use any VR package more than once or twice,
I've used it more than once or twice. Like it's not an everyday occurrence. But especially like when we were home, not working here, it was a really fun escape.
Yeah.
I could put it on the kids and they could go for a walk around Cairo or around other cities. When we weren't able to go on vacation, I got this really cool fishing game and I could go fishing and it's really peaceful because it's like an actual lake. The game is based in South Korea. So you go around to these key locations in South Korea and like, oh, it's starting to rain. And when you put the headset on, it's just you in a lake in the rain.
That'd be cool.
I
could do that.
The immersion of the environment was just as satisfying as like, oh, I caught a fish. Like that was neat. Yeah. But just like,
yeah,
it was neat.
But
that's what it is. It's
that's
neat.
Interesting. Yeah.
You can't play like a campaign game. Like I said, they're mostly, because it's the Quest, they're mostly mobile type. Like I can play this for a certain amount of time and then I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
Vader Immortal, because it's the 3 games, has a story that has a beginning and an end, but you're kind of on rails for most of that game.
Yeah.
And so it's not a full, expansive, like side mission type deal. So the games themselves are pretty linear. Therefore, it doesn't require as much investment, which lends itself to like picking it up every once in a while and you kind of feel like it.
I hadn't thought about that because, most PC or console games are 120 hours worth of investment to get to the end of it. That's interesting.
And it does have the ability to return a game, which is cool. You can buy something off of the Oculus store, and within 2 weeks or a certain gameplay limit, if you just don't like it anymore, you can return it. Yeah. So if you're having a party and you want people to walk on that plank and like dive into their TV like the guy in the crazy video, like you can totally do that. And then whenever they're gone, just return it.
Well, Star Wars Squadrons is the thing that got me really like, okay, I could see how this is a case where it doesn't have to be VR, but VR would make that experience way cooler. I mean, I played some like flight sim when I was a kid. I had a really terrible Commodore 64 F-19 game or something like that. I don't remember. It was terrible, but I loved the fact that I was flying a plane and like in control of all the stuff. And to do that in VR in space with Star Wars vehicles, that sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome. I think people are going to puke their faces off.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Because VR, like a common setting is to have snap movements. So you're 45 degree or 90 degree whenever you want to turn with a joystick rather than just kind of turning your head. You can turn your head all day, but a lot of games, if you want to move, you do the like cursor kind of jumps if you don't have the space. But some things, when you want to do snap turns, they're that way to prevent a little bit of that queasy motion sickness feeling. And there was a Portal knockoff game where you're a cactus.
What?
Yeah, you're a cactus, but you're playing Portal. It's almost identical, but you're a cactus.
That's weird.
And think of Portal like I'm going to shoot the one portal way over there, and then I'm going to jump off of the ledge, and it's going to propel me on like a different axis.
Oh, yeah.
That game gave me a headache. It made me very uncomfortable with the dynamic like axis movement.
Oh, yeah. That would
And
be
so
tough.
looking at Squadrons, I'm like, I want to play that right now with my headset on. And then I'm like, in space where there's no horizon, there's nothing to keep you grounded in a movement. That may be a plus. But from scuba diving and being on boats, like to prevent some of that queasiness, having a reference point in the distance and trying to focus on that helps.
Yeah. I think they did kind of plan for that a little bit, though, because there's these capital ships that are so big, they take up almost the entire field of view.
That's good.
And I know eventually you progress up to where you get to those capital ships and you're flying around on them, but it seems to me that the campaign is you start really far out and you're fighting through waves of different, you're trying to get to those big ships. And so I would imagine the horizon it becomes more volatile the closer you get to it. It's bigger, but the changes are more effective. So, and I mean, the good thing, since it's on a console or if you're playing on a PC or whatever, if the VR makes you sick, you can just use a screen. And, it's not like you're choosing that it has to be a VR. It's just a game that has that option. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm waiting impatiently for them to announce the PS5, and I'm going to do my best to get it because I'm a sucker, but...
You're not a sucker. You like things.
That's true.
You want to have enjoyment. And these people are making something specifically for you just to enjoy yourself.
That's true. That's a good point. There's a lot of piano happening up there. We've been going for like an hour.
Have we?
Yeah. You got anything else you want to...
Finish this motorcycle, but there's...
Oh, by the way, while you were talking about that,
3 minutes
I
worth of parts left.
That you don't have to disassemble the entire thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a whole... Once you finish the island for the pirate ship, then it goes into how to pull off the ship parts, take out a few things, and then stick them together to make the whole ship, and then you can stick the island parts together to make an island.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't have to start over. I don't know that I'll go through the effort to do this, but I can. So...
Except I won't now. I never will.
I don't know.
Where are you going to put that?
I have no idea. It's huge. I have no idea. We're running out of storage space for these Lego sets. Anyway. What?
I feel like maybe...
I feel like sarcasm is on its way.
No. This is housekeeping. I like to mix up housekeeping stuff.
Okay.
So it's whatever day right now. Wednesday?
Sure.
So when you hear this, there probably won't be a project video on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to kind of give people, like, should we prepare people?
Nah. You'll figure it out.
Our release schedule this week is atypical for reasons that will be apparent when all is revealed.
And then next week, you can forget about it, and we'll move on with normal programming.
Yep.
Cool. So where can people find you? At Bootyshaker42 at yahoo.com.
I'm not going to tell people my silly email address.
Don't email that
it's
address
silly.
because it's probably real. I was just kidding. No, where can people find you?
Hold on. Sorry. I got locked in this weird little, like, what part is that? And I forgot how to breathe. Right there. Josh_make stuff. Man, I got stuck in a loop that I couldn't get out of.
I've had that a couple of times in the last day or so where I start a sentence and before the words come out, another sentence starts and then they both come out at the same time and then I have to stop myself and back up or like I change directions. Man, it's been... I'm not sure if that's a sleep thing. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, you can find all of us at Alex Make Stuff on all the stuff. And huge thanks to our Maker Alliance. We have some more like potential things coming in the content realm soon. We were talking about some cool stuff the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm excited about those things. Those things are not profitable. I cannot figure out a way to make at least some. I'm looking at the list over there. I can't figure out a way to make some of those things bring in any income. But the reason that they're still on the list to do is because of the people in the Maker Alliance.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because they have value.
Yeah, and we may figure that out. But the thing, I'm not afraid to jump in to do these things because we have the support, the community of the Maker Alliance. It's a really fantastic group of people. If you want to join that and be a team member, a supporter of I Like to Make Stuff, go to iliketomakestuff.com/join.
Good job. You got it right.
Thanks. That was a guess, but
It's a good
whatever.
guess.
We can do it. Thanks for listening, everybody, and next time we'll talk about non-tech something. Want to figure something else out?
Yep.
Bounce around, but yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye bye.
What's wrong with me? To get to bag 15, you have to take it apart, make the ship,